What is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft for the 12th overall spot on Sleeper.com. Today's roster positions for this mock draft are going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. Inside today's video, I'll be going in depth into my thought process behind making every single pick in the draft, as well as discussing how the draft is going and my feelings on some other picks, some picks that I may really like, or some picks that I think are absolutely terrible. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team PPR draft from the 12th overall spot. To me, the draft is a lot different when you are starting 3 wide receivers instead of 2 wide receivers. In this draft, we have 3 wide receivers and a flex. I think you should be putting a lot more stock into the wide receiver position when you are doing a draft like this, because you could potentially be starting 4 wide receivers every single week. Now, you don't have to go into the draft thinking you just need to draft 1 million wide receivers instantly, because maybe everyone else is of that thought process, and there's going to be a beautiful running back sitting there for you at a point in the draft, then you can draft them. Obviously, you don't just have to go into the draft with one mindset, putting yourself into a box. But I do think that in a 3 wide receiver league with 1 flex, you want to be putting a lot more emphasis, in my opinion, on the wide receiver position. And we'll see how this draft goes and how heavily we end up pushing ourselves towards the wide receiver position. So the draft begins with Jonathan Taylor, followed by Austin Eckler, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook, and DeAndre Swift. A very abnormal first round. The first pick of the draft being Jonathan Taylor is cookie cutter. That's what's going to happen in basically every single draft. But Austin Eckler at the 102 is definitely a surprise, in my opinion. And seeing this many wide receivers go inside the top 5 is also a little bit surprising to me, especially since Justin Jefferson was the first wide receiver selected instead of Cooper Kupp. But the whole first round as a whole wasn't super crazy, just a little bit different. So we're sitting here at the 112, looking at the board at the wide receiver position right now. We got Stefon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, Mike Evans. Looking at the running back position, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. So based upon what we have on the board right here, while I said I think you could go wide receiver heavy in a draft like that, it seems like the draft room had the same idea as us, because we saw Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, and Devontae Adams all come off of the board. Had Devontae Adams been here at the 112, he probably would have been my pick, because I really think that Devontae Adams should dominate in Las Vegas this season. But I'm going to go with a pick that I believe has the potential to be the #1 running back in fantasy football. Now, I understand that Najee Harris is He is far from this super efficient running back, but if I know anything about Pittsburgh, it's that every single fucking year, Mike Tomlin is churning out running back ones in fantasy football. Najee Harris was that last year, and I think he is going to be that yet again in 2022. I think the upgraded offensive line, the change at the quarterback position, going from Big Ben to these other players in Kiss and Titties, Mitchell Trubisky, as well as Kenny Pickett, I think that's going to help out Najee Harris a ton. So Najee Harris is going to be my first pick. Now the draft wraps back around right to us here at the 201, and looking at the wide receivers here, I feel like there is a bit of a fall off, at least in terms of my confidence, after Stefon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Mike Evans. Mike Evans is ranked very low on Sleeper. If your home league draft is on Sleeper and you can snag Mike Evans potentially at the end of the 2nd round or at the beginning of the 3rd round, I am doing that every single fucking time. Mike Evans has the potential to be a top 5 wide receiver. This guy dominates in the red zone, scores a bunch of touchdowns. Chris Godwin could potentially miss the first couple of weeks of the season, being put on the PUP/reserve list. He is Tom Brady's favorite target. So Mike Evans to me is a no-brainer pick if he falls into the end of the 2nd round or the early 3rd round. But for me, my pick here is between Stefon Diggs or CeeDee Lamb, and I'm going to go with Stefon Diggs. The Buffalo Bills offense is one of the best offenses in the NFL, with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Stefon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, so it is really a no-brainer when it comes to selecting Stefon Diggs here. So we open the draft with a running back as well as a wide receiver. We'll see how the draft looks coming back to us, because we could go with a hero running back build, meaning we draft 1 running back early on, we look to hammer in on wide receivers, maybe a tight end or a quarterback in there, and then we hop back on the running back position later, and Najee Harris is our hero running back. So Stephon Diggs, after we go with him comes Joe Mixon, Maki Mark Andrews, Alvin Kamara, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, Deebo Samuels, Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Kyle Pitts, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette, Cam Akers, Pat Mahomes, T. Higgins, Ezekiel Elliott, Justin Herbert, the pervert, and James Conner. We have seen 3 quarterbacks come off the board in the first 3 rounds. Now, if you're in a high-stakes league with people who are they've played fantasy football for a while, right? They're more fantasy football savvy, then that is unlikely to happen. But in your normal home league, where you're drafting with your friends from maybe high school, from college, with the people from your office at work, or whoever you draft with, not every draft is super sharp. So it is entirely possible that 3 quarterbacks go in the first 3 rounds. Don't panic. Wait on the quarterback position. I think you can still find value in the 5th or 6th round, even if you want to pull the trigger a little bit earlier. The 5th or 6th round is the perfect time to do it, as long as one of those top 5 guys is there. If Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray were there in the 5th round, then I would be fine pulling the trigger at that point. But in the first 4 rounds, to be honest with you, I am definitely staying away from the quarterback position. On Sleeper, David Montgomery is going in the 3rd round. I don't love that. I do not love that. I think David Montgomery is a very talented player, but last year, his stats were very telling. If you look at a per-game basis, there's these games where he was legitimately one of the worst running backs in fantasy football, just playing like absolute dog shit. And like, if you look at this stretch of games, 14 points in PPR, 15, 12, 15 points. Like, that's fine from a running back, but that's not something I want to draft in the 3rd round, especially with me not having the utmost confidence in the Chicago Bears offense. Normally right now, I would be taking best player available, and in my opinion, that is Deontay Johnson. But how much do I want to load up on the Pittsburgh Steelers offense? Not a crazy amount, so I'm going to go with my next best player available, and I'm going to be going with Jalen Waddle, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins. I think that Jalen Waddle, while he is going to be the number 2 wide receiver in his offense, that's very clear. You don't give Tyreek Hill a zillion fucking dollars. You don't trade all those picks for him if you're not going to use him very heavily, but I think Jalen Waddle will be perfectly fine in that number 2 role in the offense. And again, I'm not going to reach on running back. If you wanted to go tight end, you can certainly do so as well, but my pick will be yet another wide receiver, and here I'm going to go with Michael Pittman. He had a pretty solid rookie year last year in Indianapolis with Carson Wentz. Now he gets the quarterback upgrade with Mr. Matty Ice Baby. I think Michael Pittman is going to do great things in his sophomore year in the NFL this year with the Indianapolis Colts. After Michael Pittman comes George Kittle, me Timbers, Terry McLaurin, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Deontay Johnson, Breece Hall, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, DJ Moore, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Mr. Joe Shiesty, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Mitchell, J.K. Dobbins, Amari Cooper, Mike Williams, Travis Etienne, Kyler Murray, Chris Godwin, and Michael Thomas. So Kyler Murray does not make it back to us. I think you can make the argument. While I think Joe Burrow was a reach, I think I almost called him Joe Allen, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Lamar, and then I think you can put Jalen Hurts in that same argument for guys that could be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football with the crazy rushing upside that Jalen Hurts has. But I think based on the team we've constructed so far, I don't feel the need to rush up the draft board and take a quarterback here. You definitely could, but I want to go ahead and get another wide receiver and then start looking at the running back position. So we already have Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, and Michael Pittman, but I want to get another wide receiver that I believe could help us take down the championship in this league, to help elevate us to the championship, and it is very likely that this wide receiver is going to be my flex every single week, so I put a lot of weight into this decision. I like a bunch of these wide receivers a ton. I like Brandon Cooks. I understand he's on Houston. I think the upside is good with him. I like Amon-Ra. I like Darnell Mooney. I like Adam Thielen. I like Drake London. But here we're going to go with the guy that's going to play second fiddle in LA with the Rams, and that's going to be Allen Robinson. I understand if you had Allen Robinson last year, he basically pulled his pants down and took a humongous shit directly on your chest if you drafted Allen Robinson. But now he goes from Chicago to LA with Matthew Stafford. I think this is going to be a really good offense, and I'm very excited about the upside of Allen Robinson here in LA in a new place. Now we're back up on the board here. The tight ends available are not the best here. I do like Dalton Schultz a ton, and I actually think Dalton Schultz could easily be a top 3 tight end in fantasy football this year. But in the 6th round, I'd probably just look elsewhere and look to pepper on a tight end a little bit later. At running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Damian Harris, A.J. Dillon, not players that I'm yearning over, not players that I'm super excited about. So we are going to end up pulling the trigger on the quarterback position and getting a guy that I really believe could be a top 5 quarterback. The rushing upside for Jalen Hurts is immense. They may be looking to throw the ball a little bit more after they bring in A.J. Brown. I like Jalen Hurts a ton in his 3rd year in Philly. Last year he played good. Seems pretty safe, like a very safe pick with a decent amount of upside because of his rushing ability. So to me, it's kind of a no-brainer to take Jalen Hurts in the 6th round when I really think that by August, I think people are going to really start to get Jalen Hurts. Now, I understand there's questions about how elite of a passer he is, but when you have that much rushing upside, I think people kind of start to hop on board, but they're a little late to the party because I've already been all aboard the Jalen Hurts bandwagon train for fantasy football. After Jalen Hurts comes Hollywood Brown. Jalen Hurts is running back, Mr. Miles Sanders, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Brandon Cooks, Juju Smith-Schuster, Rashad Bateman, Damian Harris, Kenneth Walker, Adam Thielen, A.J. Dillon, DeAndre Hopkins, Russell Wilson, Drake London, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Kareem Hunt, Dallas Goedert, Elijah Moore, Cordero Patterson, and Devontae Smith. So right now we're back up on the clock. We have 1 quarterback, 1 running back, and 4 wide receivers. Looking at the tight ends, none of these players are, yet again, jumping off the board. I like Zach Ertz a ton. I love Zach Ertz, but at this point, I'm not too sure I would be sold on him. Let me look at the wide receivers and the running backs. First, Gabe Davis's ADP is hilarious because on Underdog Fantasy, where people are looking to stack, we're going to talk about Underdog Fantasy in a little bit, where people are looking to stack in best ball, Gabe Davis is like a 3rd or 4th round pick, but on here, where people aren't as pushed forward by the stacking, he goes in like the 7th, the 8th round. So it's going to be very interesting to see where his ADP sits at the end of August. Is this hype train that has been just ravaging through the best ball community? Is Gabe Davis worth this pick? Blah, blah, blah. It's just not happening at all in redraft. So I'm wondering, will this end up being a hot topic in redraft? I am not too sure. So looking at running backs, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Chase Edmonds. I want to get at least one of these guys that I think could be my running back number 2 all season long. Maybe we have to cycle through them. So first, I'm going to go with Devin Singletary. I understand I already have Stephon Diggs, but if I'm going to hitch the wagon to an offense, I want it to be a great offense. The Pittsburgh Steelers are so-so when I was talking about Deontay Johnson earlier, but the Buffalo Bills are one of the best offenses in the NFL. I believe that Devin Singletary will be the lead back on the team, so I'm going to snag Devin Singletary. And then here, I think we are going to go with back-to-back running backs. I do really like Gabe Davis's upside. But again, we already have a bunch of Buffalo Bills. I like Treylon Burks, the rookie. There's some interesting picks here, but the wide receiver core here is going to run a little bit deep here, so I'd rather snag another running back and then just worry about tight end later. I'm not too worried, so I'm going to go with my next favorite running back, and that is going to be either Chase Edmonds or Rashad Penny. I really think that Chase Edmonds this year in Miami is going to be the clear number 1 running back. Now, the team did end up bringing in Raheem Mostert, so there is going to be a little bit of a competition. There's going to be games where Raheem Mostert, we all know what fucking Raheem Mostert is. They can hand the ball to him. He can take that shit to the crib from like the 90-yard line. The guy is very, very fast, but he always gets hurt. Blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of arguments against him. I think he's pretty solid. I think, though, that Chase Edmonds will be the number 1 back. He has a lot of pass catching potential. We've seen that utilized in Arizona earlier on in his career, so I think we can see Chase Edmonds have a great year. This year, I would have been fine taking Rashad Penny as well because I really believe Rashad Penny is going to be the clear workhorse running back on the team. There's a lot of hype about Kenneth Walker. He went in the 6th round of this draft. He won the 6th round, but I think that people are really sleeping on Rashad Penny, and I think that his ADP is also going to start to rise as we get closer to August. After Chase Edmonds comes Mr. Dicky Doc Prescott, Treylon Burks, Gabe Davis, Hunter Renfrow, Rashad Penny, Chase Claypool, Tony Pollard, Zach Ertz, Tom Brady, Garrett Wilson, Dawson Knox one time if you are with me, Tyler Lockett, James Cook, Brandon Ayuk, Aaron Rodgers, Mike Lickion, Mike Gesicki, Matthew Stafford, Robert Woods, and Derek Carr. This is kind of the point in the draft where if I didn't have Jalen Hurts, I'd probably start to panic if my league was like this because people are taking 2 quarterbacks. This guy is Russell Wilson. He drafts Aaron Rodgers. Do not do that. Now, oh, Nick, I'm in a super flex league. Of course, you got to draft 2 quarterbacks in a super flex league. You want to be drafting 3, maybe 4. But when you're in a 1 quarterback league, if you're going to draft 2 quarterbacks, don't draft Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Draft Russell Wilson, then take a deep shot from downtown Stephen Curry range on Daniel Jones or something like that. Don't draft Aaron Rodgers a round or 2 rounds later. That makes no sense. So we're back up on the clock here. We have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, actually 3 running backs, and 4 wide receivers. So our pick is very open here at tight end. Not in love with any of these guys. Again, I like Pat Freiermuth. like Hunter Henry, I like Albert O, but in the 9th round, if we're at this point, I'm just going to wait and take Tyler Higbee, Robert Tonyan at this point. I'm fine. I don't see much of a difference between all of them to where I need to really pull the trigger super early. Here, I think there is a pretty clear fall off at the running back position, so I'm going to go with one more running back and then hammer back in on the wide receivers. We're going to go with Melvin Gordon. Now, again, there is definitely the chance that Javonte Williams completely takes over this backfield, becomes the clear number 1 back, and basically hits Melvin Gordon with the fucking Heisman pose. Stiff arms him away, and Melvin Gordon just doesn't have that much of an impact, and Javonte Williams is the clear lead back in Denver. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that Melvin Gordon's going to eat into that role. There's going to be games where Melvin Gordon feasts, and if Javonte Williams was to go down, Melvin Gordon would probably be a top 5 running back in the absence of Javonte Williams if we are assuming that Russell Wilson's going to take this team to the next fucking level. So I love drafting Melvin Gordon late with that upside, especially when you can get him inside of the 9th round. So we're back up on the board here, and we are going to be going with a wide receiver. Again, the tight ends, I'm not screaming to the mountaintop that I need to draft Pat Freiermuth here. So we are going to go with a wide receiver and select someone who I have started to get decently high on as of recently, and that is going to be Kadarius Toney. I like Toney as well as Kenny Golladay a ton later on in these drafts because one of these guys is really going to eat. I think with Brian Daboll as the head coach of the New York Football Giants, things are going to get a lot better. So I think Kadarius Toney, based on what he showed us last year, didn't have this crazy stretch of games. He fought a Dallas Cowboy. That was pretty cool. But I think Kadarius Toney is pretty talented and definitely worthy of a 10th round pick and a guy that could be a part of this wide receiver rotation, especially in positive matchups and especially if he really takes flight early on in the season like I think he can. After I go with Kadarius Toney comes Michael Carter, Pat Freiermuth, Damian Pierce, Ronald Jones, Christian Kirk, Isaiah Spiller, Trey Lance, Alan Lazard, Sky with 2 Ys more, Alexander Mattison, Cole Kmet, Ramondre Stevenson, Jameson Williams, James Robinson, Michael Gallup, MVS, Albert O, Kirk Cousins. You like that, Tyler? Yeah, Boyd, James, I almost said James Landry. That is Jarvis Landry, Naheem Hines, and Hunter Henry. Back up on the board here. We still don't have a kicker or defense, but those are reserved for the last 2 spots, so ain't no worry about that here. We still have a tight end spot, kicker, defense, and 3 bench spots, so eventually we're going to have to draft that tight end, but it's not yet. It is time to keep hammering in on the wide receivers and the running backs. I like Kenny Golladay, but I already have Kadarius Toney. I kind of went on that rant about that. So we're not going to be going with either of those players, and we are going to be going with another high upside wide receiver in my book, and that is going to be rookie Jahan Dotson of the Washington football team, I understand. But Nick, Jahan Dotson's quarterback's Carson Wentz, and I know you don't like Carson Wentz. True. Don't like Carson Wentz, but I do think that it's a step up from Heineke, and in his rookie year, I mean, he was drafted in the 1st round, so he's going to be given a chance. Again, if he sucks, then you just cut him off your roster. He was a 12th round pick with the wide receivers we have. He will be just fine. Like, we're going to be just fine. So when we have a strong wide receiver core like this, I want to take more shots on guys that I feel have a bunch of upside. But before we get on into our next pick inside of the 12th round, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor of today's video. They're right above me. I'm pointing to them. They're all the way at the top. Underdog Fantasy. If you use promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, they'll give you a $100 first match deposit bonus. Now, the reason why I like Underdog Fantasy so much is because it helps me prepare for my 2022 fantasy football drafts. When you are drafting on, say, ESPN, NFL, one of those websites, the ADP is all out of fucking whack. I believe that you are getting your best practice in when you're drafting with people who are putting up real money. And my favorite part about fantasy football is the draft. I love drafting. I love doing these mock drafts. I love doing the best ball drafts. My favorite part is drafting. On Underdog Fantasy, you draft your team, and that is it. The computer on Underdog will automatically set your lineup for you. They will automatically give you the highest scores every week, so you don't even have to worry about it. You don't even have to think about it. Whereas in your typical redraft league, if you join 100 drafts, then you're going to have to be setting 100 lineups every Sunday, which is going to drive you fucking crazy. On Underdog, they automatically set the lineup for you. There's no waivers. There's no trades. You don't have to worry about calling up Jim from the office, him answering the phone. He's too busy with the kids, can't talk to you. But pal, I want to make a trade. Don't give a fuck. He hangs up on you, right? You don't want to be dealing with that. You don't want to be dealing with that. You don't have to on Underdog Fantasy because they automatically set the lineups for you. No trades, no waivers, none of that. and it is still very fun. I love drafting on there. And again, if you use promo code AWESOMO, you'll get a $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100, you will get a $100. And their biggest tournament, the Best Ball Mania 3, has a $2 million prize pool. If you use promo code AWESOMO, that will be 4 free entries into that, or you can do the $5 puppy tournament, which will give you 20 free entries into that with the additional $100 that you are given. Please make sure you guys do check out Underdog Fantasy. I plan there all the time, but if you are in a draft with me, tweet it at me on my Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. So we're back on into the draft, and here we're probably going to go wide receiver again, unless one of the tight ends or running backs are really making my eye sparkle here. Looking at the running backs here, Darrell Henderson, Rachaad White, Tyler Algier, nothing super amazing here. So we're probably just going to go wide receiver or tight end here. I do like Irv Smith, I like Njoku, but again, I think we can just wait until the next round. So I'm just going to take one more wide receiver here, and then we're probably going to take a running back and a tight end to close out the draft before we take our kicker and our defense. So looking at the wide receivers here, I just want to get a guy that I think has the shot to be the number one receiver in his offense. That's going to be Devontae Parker, and I understand the New England Patriots are basically the definition of not a super pass-heavy offense, especially with Mac Jones under center, but I do believe in his second year, they're going to let him cook a little bit, maybe take the restraints off slightly, and I think that we could see Mac Jones have a little bit more pass-heavy of a season, and the wide receiver number 1 role is certainly open in New England, and I think that Devontae Parker, who kind of flourished in Miami last year, there was a bit of injuries, but he did look pretty good. I think he could have a great year in New England and could be their number 1 wide receiver. And getting that in the 12th round, finding the number 1 receiver on any team is going to be very, very difficult. After we go with Devontae Parker, we see Tua Tagovailoa come off the board, followed by Rondale Moore, Irv Smith, Justin Fields, Mystic Marlon Mack, Rachaad White, Jacoby Myers, Kenneth Gainwell, Henderson, Watson, Tucker the fucker, Galladay, Njoku, McKissick, Higbee, Algier, Patrick, Gronk, Pickens, Lawrence, Herbert, the pervert, there's 2 of them, but Khalil Herbert, and then Raheem Mostert. We're back up on the board here, and we got to go tight end. We're going to go with the upside. I hope Tonyan is good to go for week number 1. If he is, there's a lot of real estate for a lot of touchdowns for Mr. Robert Tonyan in Green Bay. I think he's kind of a no-brainer if you are very confident with the running backs we have. If you're saying, you know what, I like Najee Harris, but I'm really confident with Singletary, Edmonds, and Melvin Gordon, then you could draft another tight end. But if you're a little bit more pessimistic, maybe you want to go with another running back here, and that's what I will do. I'm going to get Mark Ingram, assuming that Alvin Kamara gets some type of a suspension. If he does not, then we are going to look like a bit of a buffoon here because Mark Ingram will be virtually irrelevant if Alvin Kamara does not get suspended. And we should know that by, I believe, August 1st, what the suspension is going to look like for him. After we go with Mark Ingram, the Buffalo Bills, Evan McPherson, Rams D, Noah Fant, the Bucks D, McCole Hardman, Chargers defense, Matt Gay, Harrison Butker, DJ Chark, Matty Ice Baby, Gus Edwards, 49ers defense, Jameis Winston, Darrell Williams, Mac Jones, Matt Prater, Tyrion Davis-Price, Ravens defense, Odell Beckham Jr., Van Jefferson, David Bell, and we are going to close it out here with our kicker and our defense. First, we're going to go with our kicker. We're going to go with the best one available. I want to get my boy, my old bitch lame, but my young Hoku of the Atlanta Falcons. Think he's going to have a much better year than last year, with the Atlanta Falcons being a little bit better of a team this season. And then for the defense, you want to go with the defense with the best week number 1 matchup, a defense that is playing up against an offense that you think is not going to be very hot in week 1. Then after week 1, you just cut them and then pick up a new defense if you have to. I haven't done that research yet, so we'll just go with the top defense available. After we go with the New Orleans Saints, Daniel Carlson, a bunch of defenses, a bunch of kickers. And if there is any non-kickers or defenses, I will name them off. If not, we are going to recap our team, which is the case here. So we're going to do the electric slide to the right here to give you guys a bit better of a view of our team. Our team is comprised now of quarterback Jalen Hurts. Our running backs are Najee Harris and Devin Singletary. Wide receivers are Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, and Michael Pittman. Our tight end is Robert Tonyan. Our flex is Allen Robinson. Our kicker and defense are Young Hoku. And the New Orleans Saints and our bench is comprised of Chase Edmonds, Melvin Gordon, Kadarius Toney, Jahan Dotson, Devontae Parker, and Mr. Mark Ingram. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys thought about today's draft. If you are new to Underdog Fantasy, please use promo code AWESOMO, AWESEMO, for a $100 first match deposit bonus. I love all of you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy!